You ever try explaining a microaggression to someone who's never heard of one? It's like telling someone you've been cut and they ask, but did you bleed on the floor? I don't see anything. You start second guessing yourself. Maybe it wasn't that deep. Maybe you're too sensitive. Maybe they didn't mean it like that. But then it happens again and again and again and again. And now you're standing in a room full of smiling faces, quietly bleeding out while you gaslight yourself into believing that you're okay. That's a microaggression. It doesn't knock you out like a punch, it drains you like a slow leak. It's not always obvious, it's not even always hostile, but it's always felt and it's always real. It's one of those intricacies of systemic racism that stems from learned behavior of groups in society and can't be erased with a law. It's de facto prejudice. It's the status quo. It's your coworker saying, "Oh, you're so well spoken." It's the lady at the store clutching her purse like you just walked in with a ski mask. It's being told you're overreacting to something you've lived through your whole damn life. It's the girl in school saying, "Oh, you're cute for a dark skinned boy." These aren't accident. It's all design. And if racism is the system, microaggressions are how it stays updated without anyone reading the terms and conditions. But we're going to talk about it plainly, honestly, because being black in America isn't one big wound. It's more like death by 1,000 cuts. Microaggressions don't come out of nowhere. They're not glitches, they're features baked into the software of American socialization from day one. From the time we're kids, we're taught who's safe, who's scary, who's smart, who's ghetto, not by direct lessons, by TV shows, classroom discipline, beauty standards, and who always dies first in the movie. It starts when teachers punish black children more harshly for the same behavior. When little black girls are called too grown for wearing braids and lip gloss, when little black boys get labeled aggressive just for being loud or excited in class, and it's not always white people doing it, these messages are so deep, we start internalizing them ourselves. You grow up looking in the mirror and wondering if your features are too black, if your name sounds too hood, if you need to shrink a little to be safe or palatable or just employable. Even if you don't fully realize it yet, the world is already teaching you what box you're supposed to stay in, and it's already showing everyone else what to expect from you before you even open your mouth. That's how microaggressions get passed around so easily. It's not always about hate. It's about default settings, and those defaults come from somewhere, from our systemic racism. So by the time you're grown and someone says, "You don't sound black," it's a breadcrumb trail back to a childhood of being told who you were allowed to be. Microaggressions don't just live in awkward comments or sideways glances. They show up everywhere in ways so routine you start thinking you're the problem for noticing. They show up in a doctor's office when your pain gets ignored or your tone gets labeled aggressive, or you have to bring your mom to explain your symptoms just so they'll take you seriously. They show up at work when you suggest an idea and it gets brushed off, only for a white coworker to say the same thing and suddenly everyone's like, "Oh, that's brilliant." They show up in the classroom. They show up in the classroom when a teacher says, "Let's hear from someone else," after you've already raised your hand 3 times. They show up in TSA lines and HR reports and group chats and podcast jokes and police reports that say resisted arrest, but leave out what came before the cuffs. And they're layered. For women of color, it's not just race, it's also gender. For queer people, it's layered again. It's like an algorithm of bias calculating in real time how much grace you're gonna get. And that's the thing about microaggressions. They don't kill your body, they mess with your mirror. Until you start asking, am I crazy or are they just uncomfortable with me being fully alive? Here's the part that people who've never dealt with this never understand. Calling out a microaggression often costs more than staying quiet because the moment you say something, you become the problem. You go from team player to divisive, from good communicator to aggressive. Oh, they love to call us aggressive. From inspirational to intimidating. And you know exactly how it's gonna play out before it even happens. Because you've seen it a ton of times because you're black and you experience being black in America and you know how it works. You try to bring it up calmly. They hit you with, "Oh my God, I didn't mean it like that. You're reading too much into it. Wow, I guess I can't say anything anymore." Now you're the one reassuring them. They say something sideways, but you're the one doing emotional labor to protect their feelings? It's like breaking your leg and then having to carry the person who tripped you. And let's not forget, the system is rigged to back them up. Say something too loud, you're angry. Too quiet, you're passive aggressive. Say nothing, now you're complicit in your own erasure. That's why microaggressions are so hard to fight, because the second you speak up, it stops being micro. Here's the thing people miss. Microaggressions aren't just about bad manners or awkward conversations. They're about power. The power to define what is normal. The power to decide who gets to feel safe and who has to keep adjusting just to exist. And when you deal with that every day, it teaches you something deep. It teaches you how to see through people. You start learning who actually sees you and who just sees a version of you that fits their comfort zone. It teaches you how to laugh at pain. Because if you don't laugh, you will lose your mind. It's the truth. That's why we laugh. Look, it teaches you how to code switch, translate your emotions, choose your battles, and still show up to work like nothing happened. But most of all, it teaches you who's really willing to change. Because here's the truth: you can't workshop your way out of a culture that rewards silence. You can't fix racism with HR, and you definitely can't pray away something you won't even name. But you can speak. You can create space, and you can follow the people who are already doing that work loudly, consistently, and unapologetically. People like Toni Morrison, who said the very serious function of racism is distraction. And she was right, because the more time we spend explaining our humanity to people who keep pretending they don't see it, the less time we spend building the world that we actually deserve. So here's the last word: microaggressions are real, they add up over time, they hurt, and they will not be ignored just because they're quiet. We are bringing light to this situation. We're not asking for perfection. Shit, we didn't even ask for integration. All we wanted was equality, fair treatment under the law, equal funding for our schools, and equal facilities so we could actually have an opportunity in this country. Instead, we got locked up with all the people who already were conditioned to hate us in the first place. Come on, man. Come on, people. Come on, man. One take, let's get it. Still feel the pain from the shit I've been bottling up.